When you think of Christmas time, what comes to mind? Is it sugar cookies and gingerbread houses, mistletoe and holly, or maybe light-hearted carols and sentimental movies about Santa Claus? Chances are it isn't ghost stories, but the tradition of telling spooky stories during the holiday season goes back much further than most of the customs we abide by today. Hey everybody, welcome to the Top 11. Today we're going to go over the top 11 scary bedtime stories. Make sure to watch until number 1, because it's one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard of. 11. Perchta. This Celtic goddess is a hardcore Santa Claus, and not in the fun way. She came up in the Alpine regions around the Middle Ages as a sort of traditions police. She made sure cultural taboos didn't get tabooed. During the 12 days of Christmas, and especially on the 12th night, because she procrastinates like a college student and crams everything in at the last minute, she would roam the frozen countryside and sneak into people's homes. If the children and servants of a house had behaved and worked hard all year, she might give them a small silver coin hiding in a shoe or pail. But if they were on the naughty list, Perchta would slit their bellies open, remove all of their guts, and stuff the body with straw and pebbles. To get this treatment, you don't have to do much. Girls who hadn't spun all of their flax or wool that year would become Christmas straw dolls. Or even if someone ate something on their day of feast other than the traditional foods of fish and gruel. So, everyone was up for grabs. Number 10. Santa Claus Homicide Detective. When he wasn't committing crimes such as breaking and entering, the French version of Santa Claus, Saint Nicholas, was out solving crimes. His speciality was murder. And if he was in a particularly good mood, he'd bring them back to life in a disappointingly non-zombie-like fashion. One such story begins with 3 children who got lost in the woods, because, terrible things like this happen when children venture off into the woods. They stumble upon a butcher's house and ask for help. He invites them inside, fattens them up, and sends them to bed. Then he gets the Worst Host of the Year award by chopping them up into little pieces and sticking them in a barrel of salt for petit sal, a salty pork dish. 7 years later, St. Nicholas decides to go for a walk in the middle of nowhere and also knocks on the same butcher's door. When he's inside, he asks for petit sal. The butcher gets him something fresh. St. Nicholas gives him a look and says, "Why don't you give me the meat you prepped 7 years ago, you homicidal maniac?" Then he sticks his fingers in the right barrel and the 3 kids magically spring back to life. In some versions of the story, the butcher becomes St. Nicholas's assistant, Père Fouettard. I guess murdered 3 kids for meat is good on a resume. Number 9. Christmas Tree Decorations. What's Christmas without a little murder? A girl named Juliet is home alone as she lives with her single mother, who's a nurse taking the night shift. Juliet just finished decorating the Christmas tree when there's a scratching at the door to their apartment. When she looks through the peephole, she sees a man dressed in a dirty Santa Claus suit. "It's Santa Claus," she says. Juliet may be only 11 years old, but she's not an idiot. She refuses to open the door and threatens to call the police when he doesn't leave. His solution to this little dilemma? An axe. Juliet hides in the closet while he busts down the door. When he finds her, she manages to stab him in the eye with a coat hanger, and it all goes downhill from there. Juliet's mum finally manages to come home around midnight. She finds the door busted open and the Christmas tree decorated with bits of Juliet. Eek. Number 8. Greek Goblins. These little monsters live underground throughout the year and only come up during the 12 days of Christmas, while it's friggin' freezing. Most say they're more annoying than harmful, pulling pranks, causing mischief, and demanding piggyback rides from humans. But in Turkey, it's a different story. They'll hang out on the streets at night and ask seemingly ordinary questions to passers-by. If you don't answer correctly, the goblin kills you. The correct answer is Kara, Turkish for black. Another favorite hobby of the Kara Konkolos is calling out to people while imitating the voices of their loved ones, luring them out into the cold in the hopes that they'll freeze to death. Number 7. Krampus. You can't have a spooky Christmas list without Krampus. This guy is St. Nick's evil twin. While St. Nicholas focuses only on the good children, Krampus dedicates his attention to the less goody two-shoes. Tamer versions of Krampus have him doing nothing more than scaring kids and giving them lumps of coal, while their friends get candy from St. Nicholas. Sometimes he whips them into shape with a birch. The more hardcore version has him with a sack or basket to kidnap children. Depending on who's telling the story, Krampus either eats them, drowns them, or sends them straight to hell. Number 6. The Gritha. The Gritha is a monster who lives in the North Pole, probably just down the street from Santa Claus. He's known for his basketball-sized hands and arms as big as a boa constrictor's. But instead of using them to enter a weightlifting contest, a guy built like that, he could easily make it to the Olympics. But he uses them to reach into people's houses and squeeze their heads until they pop like Prince Oberyn's from Game of Thrones. Oh, and I hope you're not reading this out loud. The Gritha hates the sound of his own name. His victims are the only ones who say it out loud. Number 5. The Nutcracker. It starts with a young girl named Marie. She receives a nutcracker for Christmas, which her brother breaks trying to crack a particularly large nut. That night, while everyone's asleep, Marie sneaks back downstairs to be with the nutcracker. But as the clock strikes midnight, rats pile into the house from seemingly nowhere, led by the 7-headed Mouse King. Let me repeat that, 7 heads. Marie finds herself magically shrunk to a mouse's size, but lucky for her, all the other dolls spring to life and start battling the rats. They're led by none other than the Nutcracker. It doesn't go too well for the dolls until Marie takes off her slipper and chucks it at the Mouse King, distracting him long enough for the Nutcracker to kill him. Marie passes out, and when she wakes up normal-sized, the room is a mess. Number 4. Christmas Werewolves. The Prickalici are Romanian werewolves of ancient lore, and they love Christmas. Werewolf activity is said to increase during the Christmas season, which makes sense seeing as wolves are social animals. They gotta check in on grandma, visit the in-laws, count up how many humans they killed this year, and set the goal for next year. All that jazz. Number 3. Fraugeld. Fraugeld was only ever seen during the 12 days of Christmas. After all, you really shouldn't leave the front door open. Not only is it a security risk, but also it's really bad for the energy bill. And in winter, forget it. If, while she wandered the streets of German-speaking Europe, Fraugeld found a house with the door open, she would send in a dog. The dog would be impossible to send away as it whined and begged for food. If the homeowners were jerks and decided to kill the dog, the body would turn to stone and the phantom would come back. It brought bad luck for the rest of the year. Number 2. The Christmas Land of Iceland. These boys are said to be the sons of 2 mountain trolls, and they would terrorize children during the Christmas season if they had misbehaved. Each of their names described what they'd do. Sheep-coati harasses sheep. Gullyhawk hides in gullies to sneak into the cowshed and steal milk. Stubby steals pans to eat the leftover crust. Spoonlicker? That's obvious. And disgusting. Pot scraper steals leftovers from pots. Bowl licker? Again, obvious. Door slammer scares the crap out of everyone in the middle of the night with his little hobby. Skyer Gobbler loves Icelandic dairy products. Doorway Sniffer uses his giant nose to sniff out more food. Meat Hook uses a hook to steal meat. And then there's Sausage Swiper, Window Peeper, and Candle Stealer. But what makes the lads scary is their companion, the Yule Cat. This beast eats children who didn't receive new clothes for Christmas, because that's somehow the kids' fault. Number 1. The Turn of the Screw. An unnamed governess is freshly hired to look after 2 kids, Miles and Flora, while their uncle is away. She asks the maid, Mrs. Gross, about the ghosts. Mrs. Gross tells her they're former employees, Peter Quint and Miss Jessel. Once the ghosts start getting in the house, the governess decides it's time to call for help, but before she can send a letter to her boss, it gets stolen. The governess suspects that the kids can see the ghosts too, but they don't talk about it. Not until Flora mysteriously falls ill. Mrs. Gross rushes her off the estate to see a doctor, leaving the governess alone with Miles. Miles was the one who stole the letter. He summons the ghost of Peter Quint, and when the governess looks out the window to see him, she instantly dies of fright. Well, that is it, guys. Please subscribe to the Top 11 YouTube channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of our amazing videos. Check out this playlist of my personal favourite videos on this channel about some really crazy and interesting clips of the best Top 11 videos on YouTube. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.